Hello everyone, I'm Mara Benitez, Library Assistant here at the Seguin Public Library, and I'm here with Salim Ali from SOFA, the Society for Financial Awareness, and we're here in our third session on college planning. So let's see what Salim's got for us today.
Hello and good morning, everyone. I appreciate you joining us today for our third workshop, like Mara said, college planning. Thank you for being here. My name is Salim, and I'm a member of Society for Financial Awareness, which is commonly referred to as the SOFA. It's a non-profit organization under Section 501c3. Our mission out here is to help end financial illiteracy across America, one community at a time. Like I mentioned before, today we'll be, like Mara mentioned before, we will be talking today about college planning. I want to thank Seguin Public Library for giving me an opportunity to be here with you. Okay, there are a couple of questions that we need to ask ourselves on the college planning. The first one is, how much do I want to pay? The second one is, how much will I need? In fact, the first question, how much I want to pay, is really, there's nothing much you can do. You have to pay what is required to pay. And the second question, how much will I need? Let's start with that question first. Now, remember, it's almost always about planning ahead of time, not the summer before college begins. The Let's look at the cost we were looking at. It's a cost projected for 2030. The projected cost or estimated cost for private college 9 years ahead of us is almost 32,900 per year, which is almost 33,000. Whereas going to a public university, we're looking at a cost which is almost about half, a little less than half. But like I said, this is estimated projected figure 9 years ahead, and it could change. And I'm sure it will change quite a bit. It could up or down. I don't know, but it's based on a lot of factors, the inflation and other things, risk of money, and the other factors. Now we're looking at where is the money and how we're going to pay it. Now remember one thing: there are a lot of scholarships and other things available to you, but the field is very competitive. It's intense competition, and there are no guarantees that you would be eligible for or get a scholarship. The other factor is you could say, okay, we can work part time. That's another source for college funding. Many students work their way through college. Part time employment is a valuable source of income and experience. However, some students may not be eligible for some particular jobs based on the financial aid your child is receiving. On the other hand, some students, mostly freshmen, tend to be restricted to 10 to 20 hours of employment per week to allow them to focus on school. Students who work as teaching or research assistants often develop a valuable relationship with their professor and can get internship and work study program easier. And that would be a very good, valuable springboard for them to graduate and make the career. Although those create great opportunities, they are typically unpaid or pay very minimal. When compared to the cost, will working part-time cover it? And the answer is no. Okay, so now we look at the other factors. Where will the other money will come from? Let's look at some of the things available. There's grant money for you. Now, this grant money, don't need to be repaid. There's federal Pell Grant also available, and those are mostly for undergraduate. The third item is Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. This is helpful, but there's no guarantee that every deserving student will get one, and it's very hard to get to. Continue with the same subject. Where will the money come from? And I just mentioned to you some of the things. Now, there's another option there besides that. There's some loans available. There are some other scholarships, which federal grants, which are subsidized and unsubsidized. If, if you are not qualified for any subsidized grant or loans, you will be unsubsidized, which means that the borrower is responsible. You're responsible for the interest accrued from issue of the loan, although not required to pay it until after the grace period expires. And there's another loan available called Plus loan, which enables parents with good credit history to borrow to pay the educational expenses of a dependent child who is an undergraduate student enrolled at least half the time. Here's another source of money coming from. It's called Coverdell Education Retirement Account, Savings Account. It was formerly known as Educational IRA, and there's another thing which is 529 College Saving Plan, which is you use that plan. And on the next slide is you will see the advantages of the 529 College Saving Plan. It's tax deferred growth, trustee maintain control, you maintain control of your investment and your withdrawals. Any beneficiary can be changed at any time. It can be established with any participant bank, credit union, mutual funds, or any other institution. And there's a lot of investment options available to you. Okay, there are some limitations too. The contribution, the maximum you can contribute any year would be 15,000 individual per year. Only one account can be established per beneficiary. It is counted, when you're going for scholarship, it is counted against the financial aid qualification. So that can be a drawback to you. You won't be get a full scholarship because you have some funds available there. Withdrawal must be used for qualified education cost or be subject to income tax penalty. All the contribution you make, you can only make it up to the age 18, and it has to be withdrawn before the beneficiary or your child get to age 30. Right there on the Coverdell account, which is same some things right there, as it says the maximum benefit, the only contribution you can make is 2,000 per versus 15,000, 2,000 per individual. The tax deferred has the same advantages as the other one and the same restrictions, except for the contribution part, which is a little different. Okay, now let's go on the limitation. Limited investment options. What it means basically is, you can take an average prudent, you have to be prudent in making investment choices. You cannot put money into risky options or anything that will probably jeopardize your investment. It may be counted against financial, like I said earlier too, it may be counted against financial aid qualification. So that's one of the biggest drawbacks. And it can only be used for qualified education cost or subject to income tax penalty, tax and penalty. So if we have this money lying in a 429 college plan, you cannot withdraw this money to pay for your health insurance or to pay for an emergency or anything. It has to be used towards the education, and if you don't, you're going to pay the tax and the penalty. Some of the really important consideration is the risk profile. In other words, like I mentioned, you cannot take a risk with this. The time horizon is up to 18 years, depending. We're going to talk about it in the next slide. There's an inflation risk, there's a tax risk, and let's give you an example. Let's say a child from 0 to 5 years, and child is born, and you put $2,000 for 5 years. That's all you put, and you don't put anything anymore, and you put 5 years, 2,000 is $10,000 that you put in there. And we can assume a silly kind of a inflated return, let's say about 12%. When they get 18 years old, you're looking at about $62,000 in the account. Now, let's take the second example. Somebody who's 6 years old, you have not been able to contribute for the first 5 years, but you start contributing for 6 years, and you contribute after that every year 2,000 until they're 18. Now, so for the 13 years that you contribute 2,000, you put $26,000 in there, and you have almost about the same return at 12% as was the child for first 5 years. So now you're looking at 5 years versus 13 years to get the same return. So the point is, start early. Start that. If you think you want to do it, you want to give them a good education, start the college funding early, and you'll be surprised what it can do for you. There are some questions out there that you have to ask. Final Jeopardy, like, hey, what savings vehicle do I use? Uh, how much am I going to plan for? What is the figure you want? What will be you contributing from your pocket? And hey, if they get a scholarship, that's great. If they don't, you still have to figure something out. And what can I do? Guys, how do I get started? And I guess there's a lot of factors out there. If you have any questions, and you want any consultation, feel free to call me a call. My number is right on the screen, and I'll appreciate that. I again want to thank the library, Seguin Public Library, for giving me this opportunity to be with you guys today. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.